I think people lose the sight of what's in it for the end consumer. When you post a status or you post a picture or you do something on social media, if you're constantly focused on what you're giving to people, it's only reciprocity that's going to come back. And so I feel like that's something people don't focus on.
Welcome to Connect, the podcast by the Holdrege Chamber of Commerce. We are joined with Adam Hernandez, a familiar face around the office, but maybe he's new to you. Adam is our communications and events coordinator, and he's been with the Chamber since February, really early February. Real great person to have around the office. Often we spend a good part of our day just kind of riffing ideas and what if, and it's very energizing. I got to interview Adam, so I know a lot about his background, but I'm not sure that a lot of you do. I brag about you a lot, so we're excited to talk to you. We start each of our Connect podcasts with a little bit of community events. I would like to reinforce or remind you that there is a comedy performance coming up at the Tassel. And it is
Who Hijacked My Fairy Tale.
Who Hijacked My Fairy Tale. Really exciting. And then on Saturday, one of the remaining makers markets in front of the Lost Way Brewery. So, take advantage of what is here. Adam, you're new to the Tassel board.
Yes. It has been an awesome experience on the board of the Tassel so far. So that's something I'm very excited for. But also the makers market. I went 2 weekends ago, and it's just so cool to see all those people out there. There's so many different things to look at and buy. So definitely would recommend heading out there.
Yeah, do that before it gets cold. I know it's hard to think about things getting cold now, but it's coming. It's going to turn. And then just a plug, not really happening this week, but the week following, I want to remind you that we have a new festival in town, Iron Horse Fest. Make sure you go online and get your tickets for Logan Mize, Luke Mills, and Savannah Chestnut. It is going to be a big deal here. We're excited. Free stuff all day long, and then the concert at night. So that's what's coming up in our community. But let's get to know Adam a little bit. When you applied for the position, you really came at it creatively, and I loved that spark. So let's hear a little bit about your background. How'd you get into the business world?
Yeah, it's interesting because straight out of high school, I wanted nothing more than to be a traveling musician. I didn't have much training in anything, really, not singing, not playing instruments, but I wanted to try my hand at being a traveling musician. So I spent 15 years traveling and touring and setting up my own events, and sometimes for 2 people, sometimes for 200 people. And it was fun. I learned a lot. And I had that kind of going on, and those who have sold music know one of the hardest things to sell people is yourself. And one of the hardest things to sell people of yourself in today's day and age is a CD. And so I really had to get good at sales. And so I did a couple of detours throughout my life, learning sales, also doing music. And then, I sold cars for a few years. And I feel like all of those kind of dominoed into what I would call my personality now. I focus a lot on, empathetic sales and, making sure that you win, but the customer wins, making sure that, just everything is always kind of a win-win, but also having that creative spark to not always have to do things the stat quo way.
Yeah.
I feel like that music business, which is kind of finicky as it is just really taught me to kind of roll with the punches. And so I say all that to say all of that kind of combined when I saw that the Chamber was looking for somebody to help with communications and events and social media. I thought this is perfect. I think I can do this. Yeah. I admittedly had very little education on what a Chamber of Commerce does and how it relates to the community and community growth. So when I came in to interview, I had probably just as many questions as you had. And it's interesting because since I've started, it's really been everything that I love about what I was doing in music kind of put all together for a community. And the funny part about music is it brings everyone together. If you look at Taylor Swift's fan base, right, you're not going to see 2 like people. It's so many people that come together for the love of that music. And I think bringing those aspects to something business related is just, it's really valuable, and it's been interesting to see how it works.
Both Adam and I are new to the Holdrege area. I've been here 3 years, also three.
Almost three. It'd be 2.5.
Yeah,
currently.
2.5. And so, how have things changed from what you didn't know about a chamber till now? And then, how does living in Holdrege impact that?
Well, yeah. So a little bit of background. Before I moved here, I lived a little bit away. I grew up in Kearney, and it's interesting about Holdrege and Phelps County in general how much rich. It's funny, we talk about cultivating and ag, but there's so much rich soil in the business here,
Yeah.
and people don't realize how much is just hiding right under their nose. So I think that's one of the big things that you don't think about it. Living in Kearney, you don't hear a lot about the things that are happening in Holdrege, but there's so much happening.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the most interesting aspects of it. And one of the things that brought me this community was it's very fair priced for housing compared to the other communities around here. The education system is great. The community is great. Businesses are thriving. It's just a really good community to come into and honestly start a business in, but also start a family in. So
I do appreciate Adam is really great about sending pictures out. So if you missed an event, you feel like you didn't miss it, you can still talk to people about what's going on. Adam was so instrumental in Swedish Day's success. It was such a huge year this year. I just got stopped last week. Was like, hey, I haven't seen you since Swedish Days, but wow, that was a really great event. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So when I was interviewing Adam, I was impressed with your musical organization and promotion and the social media that you'd been doing and the sales. But that all really came together for me to see, especially during the concert on Friday night. So what do you think? What was that like for you?
That was something, when I started, there was a lot of things that me coming from a music world that was not community based, and it wasn't, community driven. It was self-funded or, business funded. And it was something that was really just to help the person who was going to the concert, the performer. So from going from that and really focusing on just what makes money and what is going to be the funnest thing to transition into something that we want to make it as big as we can, but the focus is really making sure the businesses are having a good time and the people who are coming to the festival are having a good time. And so taking some of the things from my music world that felt like maybe Swedish Days hadn't focused on, and then taking things that Swedish Days was doing really well that I never would have considered with my music stuff, and just really just bringing those things together to merge them was everything. I feel, the different perspectives, we talk about it all the time. It was almost like taking two whole different worlds and merging them and having the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
It was a really cool experience.
One of my favorite Adam stories, we went to a conference this May. It's Midwest Chamber Executive Conference.
Yeah.
And you were sitting at a table for social media, and before we went, you're like, I'm not sure, because you had just been really working with other individuals and doing what they asked of you. But here at the chamber, I'm like, hey, we need this figured out, right?
Yeah.
And do what you need to do. And he did research, he brought his own experience, all of that. But my favorite story is your walk away reflection from that moment.
Yes. Yeah. So we were sitting at what they called the social media roundtable. And so we're going around and people are kind of talking about what they're doing, and people had really good ideas, but they get to me and I'm like, we have this content calendar and we're talking about this and daily posting, and, I'm talking about TikTok and just goals. I hadn't really even put most of it into action just yet.
And we're very organized with it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you're curious, you should come in and see the calendar and the plan. Like, there's a lot of steps that go into this. So we invite you in to look at what's going on.
I took it and I ran with it. So I feel like I'm a little bit of a pro now, but it's not something that's so advanced you can't get into it. It's very much just grassroots, back to basics,
Yeah.
getting into what actually matters.
Talking to people.
Yeah, making sure that, that's one thing that before I get too deep into it, I want to make sure that this is something I mentioned. I think people lose the sight of what's in it for the end consumer. Mm-hmm. When you post a status or you post a picture or you do something on social media, if you're constantly focused on what you're giving to people, it's only reciprocity that's going to come back. And so I feel like that's something people don't focus on. But we walked away and there was a lot of people that they were asking for my advice.
Running up to get you and be like, hey, hey, hey.
I can't believe how many business cards I gave out.
I also admire what a community person you are. You're a great family man. I can't speak for your wife, but you seem like a good husband. And you're giving back to the community through your job, but also volunteering. And I think that you're a real catch for the chamber. So.
Well, thank you. It's honestly my pleasure. I love being involved with the tassel. I love the Iron Horse Festival coming up. Please, like Lori said, come out. It's going to be a great time. We're expecting 1,000+ people out. I'm doing a DJ demonstration. Luke Mills will be doing songwriting demonstrations. There's a ton of artisans that are coming out and just showing off what they do. So make sure to come out for that. But it's my pleasure. I love this community. I love being out here. And I plan on being for a long time. So
yeah, that's one thing that I really appreciate about Adam is just his willingness to investigate something and his enthusiasm that he brings with it. He's very humble, but a total expert in everything. And he's downplaying how much work he's done on the social media, but he's got a great strategy set up and really like that. We appreciate that you gave us some time today to connect with other people around the Holdrege area. And we hope that you have a great week. Don't forget to hit up the tassel and laugh at a few jokes and go to the Makers Market.